Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're wrestling with something pretty challenging. It's a legal concept, but it really gets into, well, the darker side of human behavior. We're looking at cruelty. Specifically, when does the law say an act is so cruel it becomes an aggravating circumstance in a crime?
Exactly. And it's a specific part of the Philippine Revised Penal Code we're examining today. Article 14, paragraph 21. It sets an extremely high bar. We're talking about proving pure sadism, legally speaking.
A high bar is right. So, what's the actual legal language? How does the code define it?
Well, the text says cruelty exists when the wrong done in the commission of the crime be deliberately augmented by causing other wrong not necessary for its commission.
Deliberately augmented. Okay, so not just brutal, but intentionally made worse.
Precisely. And the courts have, built on that. There's a famous definition from a case, People v. Diag.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading that one. What did it say?
It basically defined the psychological element. It said cruelty is there when the culprit, quote, enjoys and delights in making his victims suffer slowly and gradually.
Enjoys and delights. Wow, that really specifies a certain mindset, doesn't it? It's not just about the act, but the feeling behind it.
That's the absolute key, that delight aspect. It means prosecutors can't just show a horrible injury. They have to prove the intent was to cause that extra suffering, maybe even, get pleasure from it.
Okay, so if that's the core idea, the sort of sadistic intent, what do courts actually look for? What are the concrete things a prosecutor needs to show?
Right. They've boiled it down to three essential requirements. They all have to be there.
Okay, what's the first one?
First is deliberate augmentation. You need proof of that specific intent to make the suffering worse. It can't be accidental or just part of the main crime.
Got it. Intentional worsening. What's second?
Second, the act has to be an unnecessary additional wrong, meaning the harmful act wasn't needed to actually commit the main crime, like a robbery or the killing itself. It's gratuitous.
So like something extra purely for the sake of causing pain or humiliation.
Exactly. And the third element building on that is the prolongation of suffering. The intent has to be to make the pain, whether it's physical or moral pain, last longer or be more intense than necessary.
Okay. Deliberate, unnecessary, and prolonging suffering. That framework helps, but maybe some examples would make it clearer. The case law must have some pretty stark illustrations.
Oh, absolutely. Some cases are chilling, but they really show the line. Take People v. Lucas. The accused pied the victim up.
Okay.
And while committing the main crime, he burned her face with a lit cigarette. And the crucial detail, the court noted, he was laughing while doing it.
So that showed the enjoyment, the delight the other case mentioned.
Yes, it wasn't about subduing her or ensuring the crime succeeded. It was clearly extra, unnecessary, and showed that sadistic intent.
That's clear. Any others?
Another one, People v. Marikina. There, the accused, after hog-tying the victim, did two things completely unnecessary for the killing.
What were they?
He gouged out the victim's eye with a pointed cane.
Wow.
And then stuffed the victim's mouth with mud. Neither act helped commit the murder itself. They were purely about adding agony and degradation. That was ruled as cruelty.
It really highlights the difference between, say, brutality in the act versus adding extra acts of torment.
Right. And that's why just counting wounds isn't enough. You can have many wounds inflicted quickly to ensure death. That's not necessarily cruelty in the legal sense.
So a case like People v. Aguinaldo, where there were multiple wounds but no proof of that deliberate intent to prolong suffering, wouldn't meet the standard.
Correct. You need evidence pointing specifically to that inhuman increase in suffering beyond just the violence of the crime itself.
This leads to the flip side then. When isn't it cruelty, even if the acts seem really heinous?
Again, it comes back to intent. What was the purpose of the extra act? If it was purely for concealment, like drowning someone who's already stabbed, just to hide the body?
Like in that People v. Luna case.
Exactly. That drowning wasn't about prolonging the suffering. It was about getting rid of evidence. So no cruelty enhancement there.
Okay, so concealment is one exception. What else?
Actions taken just to ensure or verify death. Maybe kicking the body afterwards, like in People v. Mill. If the intent wasn't to cause more pain to a living person, but just to check if they were dead, it doesn't count as cruelty.
And that brings up a really crucial point, doesn't it? The victim has to be alive to suffer.
Absolutely fundamental. Post-mortem acts, things done to the body after death, cannot legally be cruelty. Full stop.
So even something horrific like dismemberment or burning the house down after the person is dead?
Doesn't qualify under this specific aggravating circumstance. The law, cases like Bursabal and Pacris, are very clear. Cruelty requires a living victim capable of experiencing that deliberately inflicted unnecessary pain.
Man, the burden of proof on the prosecution must be immense then. They need evidence not just of the act, but the timing ante-mortem and that very specific malicious intent.
It is. Often requires detailed forensics, maybe witness testimony about the perpetrator's demeanor, like the laughing in the Lucas case. It shows the law really does try to distinguish between terrible crimes and crimes committed with a particular kind of, well, moral depravity.
It's a fascinating, if grim, distinction. We've focused entirely on cruelty under paragraph 21, which seems centered on, physical pain and sadism.
Right. But there's a related concept you might find interesting, often discussed alongside it. Ignominy. That's paragraph 17.
Ignominy, what's the focus there?
Ignominy is more about adding moral suffering, disgrace, or shame to the crime, rather than just physical pain. Think actions intended to humiliate the victim.
Okay. Physical agony versus moral disgrace.
So here's something for you to think about. What really strikes you about how the law draws that line? The line between wanting to inflict extra physical pain versus wanting to deliberately add shame and disgrace to the act. It's an interesting reflection on what kinds of malice the law chooses to single out.